All right, before we get started, yes, this is a spoiler-free review because there's a lot to unpack in this game and some of it's spoiler territory. So spoiler-free review here, breathe easy. Spoiler video will come on Monday morning-ish, so be here for that. But for now, spoiler-free review for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let's do it. Final Fantasy VII Remake. So the Final Fantasy VII Remake is a remake of Final Fantasy VII's Midgar segment, which is funny because that was like a 5-hour segment from an RPG in the 90s that clocked in at around 35 hours when I first beat it, 40 when I just did recently. I don't know how I did it faster when I was younger, but I did. I was scratching my head as to whether or not they could make this work, and for the most part, they actually do. Because if you look at the Midgar segment in Final Fantasy VII, it does have all of the elements present to make a compelling story that feels like a movie in and of itself, or at least a season of television. Character introductions, there's conflict, there's growth, there's tragedy. So the potential's there to make a full game that works. For the most part, this game does work. First of all, I mean, yeah, this is nostalgia coming at me, so I'm gonna get the nostalgia out of the way. It was amazing seeing these characters and this story come to life in the fashion that it does here. This is Final Fantasy VII. This is a very important RPG for the RPG genre in general, and a lot of fans out there. Point is, if there's a Final Fantasy to get this remade overhaul treatment, it is definitely Final Fantasy VI. And also 7. And as I was playing this, I kind of saw it as season 1 of a Final Fantasy VII show, if they would ever do a show. Like if they ever did a Final Fantasy VII series, season 1 would definitely just be the Midgar segment. So when that kind of clicked with me, I was like, okay, so this is like a Final Fantasy VII show that looks better than a show would, because a show would not have the budget to feel as alive as it does in this game. So I just feel like this is the optimal way of doing the story justice in modern day. So they did the story justice in that scale, they did the characters justice, everything right down to, all right, Cloud, so who is it? Aerith or Tifa? The answer is clearly Jessie now, but the answer is Tifa. Well, most of the time anyway. Point is, go Cloud. But it being a remake, right, there's a new battle system now. It's not just turn-based battle system. You hack, slash, and dodge to build up your ATB meter. Then when your meter's properly built up, you can use spells and abilities. You control one character at a time, but you just click right over to another character and now you're controlling them. Point is, I don't know if the turn-based RPG element's the correct terminology, but at the very least, the tactical element that one would expect from an RPG and the action RPG elements mixed together in battle in a way that's much better than I thought it was going to. At first, it seems like a lot. You have to multitask. Multitasking is not my cup of... I'm not good at it, but you will get good at it. You'll get better at it when you run into those moments where you're like, oh, that's fucking bullshit. Oh, come on. You will get to the point where you're building up a meter, doing an ability with Cloud before he even starts pulling the ability off. After you've selected that ability, you're already over to Barret and you're lighting up the enemy as well. I mean, you get good at it. Doesn't mean some of the fights aren't tough. Doesn't mean some of the fights aren't cheap as shit sometimes. I'm just saying the balancing of materia and abilities, it all works for me in here. I mean, the materia system's not new. That's legitimately the magic system from the original Final Fantasy VII. So I was glad it was the way they did it in here. It wouldn't have felt like Final Fantasy VII to me if they didn't, but they don't have all of the materia in the remake that you might be familiar with from the original Final Fantasy VII, but they can't have that. They need materia that is conducive to this play style specifically for the remake. But rest assured, it's plentiful materia that lets you build your characters how you want to build them. Also, I like the fact that the summon materia didn't break the game. I mean, summon materia is in this game. You do have summons. They're very extravagant, very flashy. They look amazing, but it's not like you're ever like, all right, I just want to get over this battle. So, all right, summon materia. Let's just get through it. And one hit, they're dead. Let's move on. You never knights around it. In fact, the game doesn't even let you have the option of using your summon materia unless the battle is pretty tough for you. And then the game's like, all right, you need a little extra. Here you go, summon. But again, good support, but it doesn't break the battle. You still have to win with your skill. There is a classic mode, but classic mode isn't classic mode. It's just classic mode. It's not like the camera backs up to look like classic Final Fantasy VII JRPG battle structure, and then you just take turns hitting back and forth. No, classic mode's just like regular mode, only the computer controls all of the characters, including the one you're selected, and they just hit, slash, and dodge until your meter's up, and then when your meter builds up, then you can do spells and abilities. Also, you can take control of them anyway. The point is, I feel like the computer's playing half the game for me for the battles. I would never do that. It would be cool if they do patch it to where you can do like a classic Final Fantasy VII battle system for classic mode. That'd be sweet. Granted, the game's probably not balanced to do that, but it would be a mode that I would be interested in playing at least for a bit. But they did a good job at balancing the characters in here uniquely. Cloud was my bruiser brawler. Tifa was a fighter, also half of a mage. fighter mage? I would say battle mage. Kickboxing mage? Barrett's great at long range, also against flying enemies, and Aerith, as always, is your mage. But the game's constructed in such a way where it's not like you have all four of them and you have to pick your best three. Now, the way the story rolls out, you're either Cloud and Tifa, or Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa, or Cloud and Barrett. Now you have the ones you need for the story you're playing at the time. However, the enemies they have you go up against are really well balanced against the characters they make you have. Now, in a world where battles where you have to balance all your characters and move between them, I enjoyed doing that for the tactic and strategy element. I did not enjoy having to do that to get them out of deep shit, because sometimes the characters you're not controlling, they can be idiots. I'm like, Barrett, what are you doing? You stay at range. Why are you in that guy's face? He's gonna discharge. Okay, you did. You just got hit badly. Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the ancients. And the world building, I gotta say, before I jump on some of the pacing, the world is amazing. I mean, we saw this on PlayStation 1 graphics. Maybe you saw the HD remaster, which is still the old polygons. But man, when you see it in this glory and you're hanging out in these seedy back alleys, you can almost smell the smell of popcorn, flat beer, and weed, like everywhere. They did a good job at creating atmosphere with this game. The atmosphere that fundamentally feels like Midgar. And in that comes the music. The music's amazing. Everything from the battle music, the Shinra theme, it takes you back to a place where you're like, it's cinematic in scope, but also shows you how great the music was from when it came out. It's genius music. Was then, is now, and it's great to hear these modern renditions of them. Now, as much as I do say the Midgar segment, this game does work as a full game in and of itself. It's undeniably bloated in parts. I don't know that this game had to be 40-something hours long. Like side quests in a game like this, side quests are good. People need your help, and you want to help people because, well, nothing's free. Hey, Cloud's a mercenary, and we're all entrepreneurs at heart. Come on, you gotta make some money. However, when the side quests cease to be side quests, but they're rather smaller, menial tasks that you have to do to get to the next big quest. And I really can't find a good reason as to why, other than the game it's trying to be longer than it probably needs to be. And for sure, not all the side quests are that way. At a point, the game's like, okay, so now you know about side quests, so now we're not gonna make you do the side quests. You should, though. But for a time in this game, I just felt like they were puffing up the runtime with side quests. I don't know, I'm all for a nice, solid amount of gameplay hours, but I don't want the game to feel like it's dragging its feet with me. On quite a few occasions, I was like, it just seems like the game makers just sat in a room and they were like, all right, for every scenario, let's try to make it as long as humanly possible to get out of that scenario. The more wrenches you can throw into the gears, the more obstacles you can throw in their path, the better.
That's one down.
Only 2 more lights to go.
What should be a 5-minute task, we're gonna bump it up to about 40. And yeah, I wrestle with the fact that it might be because I know how short this task is supposed to be because I played it on the PlayStation. But in a world where Cloud's walking with Aerith and that should have been a pretty quick A to B kind of trip, and instead you're scrambling on the rooftops as the game drags its feet. You're like, dude, I feel like the game is making me go around my elbow to get to my ass. Just a general annoyance, really, but if you're gonna do that, you have to fool me into thinking it's necessary to do that. And it kind of became an internalized joke in my own head. In every scenario, I was like, okay, how are they gonna make this longer than it needs to be? And sure enough, they would every time. It's Goldilocks and the Three Bears. That's what I feel like I'm in right now. Too padded, not padded enough, just right. However, the game's still enjoyable. It's just a thing I need to bring up because, give me my thoughts. Those are thoughts. I will say also, this game is accessible for the most part for people who haven't played Final Fantasy VII before. Like if this is your first, I've never played Final Fantasy VII, I want to pick this game up, do it, and for the most part, you'll be like, holy shit, has this been the story people have been raving about for decades? And for the most part, yes it is, but there are a couple moments where the game seems to operate as though you've played Final Fantasy VII before. Some of those moments are just Easter eggs, they're just nice extras to know, but there are a couple parts I was like, if you don't know Final Fantasy VII, these little flashes are gonna feel like what are they? I feel like some people might feel lost, but it's hard for me to see this through eyes that haven't played Final Fantasy VII. So in the end, I really enjoyed the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a love letter to Final Fantasy VII, at least the first few hours, but it's amazing to not just see it, experience it to the scope and scale in which you experience it in here. It's a great introduction to the characters, the Shinra Corporation. I thought the battle mechanics were a lot of fun. There are other things I have thoughts about that I just can't talk about here, and I know this is probably frustrating for you. I want to hear all of your thoughts, but I can't give all of my thoughts here, but there are things in spoiler territory that I definitely do have thoughts about. But when people ask me, is it worth it? Yes, absolutely. It was worth it for me. I had a great time playing this game. It was worth me buying at full price. All right, so that's for the spoiler-free segment. I actually have more thoughts about the spoiler-filled stuff, to be honest with you. But I'll elaborate this Monday in my Final Fantasy VII Remake spoiler talk. Be there for that. In the meantime, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Have you played it? What did you think about it? Or what do you think about the original Final Fantasy VII in general? Or what's your favorite Final Fantasy of all time? Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more. Cloud's over there like, you have 13 hours in which to solve the labyrinth before your baby brother becomes one of us forever. Such a pity.